actual.
The interview begins.
The interview begins. Alrighty, James, what are we doing here today?
Yeah, what are we doing here today? I think it was really cool just to we've got a launch out for Salty Grins now, and just really wanted to share with everyone a little bit more, like a bit more detail of Salty Grins, like a little bit more of like how the whole idea came about, so people can sort of understand the greater why of Salty Grins.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, we'll start with the big question. Who's James? Tell us a little bit about you.
Who am I? Yeah. I suppose like it's a big question to unpack. Like, where do you start? But I suppose on paper, I went to Palmerston High School. I went from there to Mass University in Palmy and did a Bachelor of Sport and Exercise and a certificate in Science and Technology. Went on and did sports therapy for 3 years. Had to go sort of as a farmhand, like the sort of junior shepherd for a little while, and then just recently come off a job kayak guiding. Been pursuing sport a really long time. Sport used to be a big part of my identity, particularly in triathlon. Raced pretty competitively age group and sort of always wanted to try and break into elite. Never quite sort of got there, but that transitioned into running, particularly like trail running, and pursuing sort of the longer stuff, still doing that. But really as an avid lover of adventure and being outside, I think, and a super social person. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest deal. I'm a super social guy who loves to be outdoors all the time. Yeah.
And well, I know a bit about Salty Grins, but obviously it's a lot about being outdoors and just being in nature and stuff, but also around the people. So tell us more about Salty Grins now.
Yeah, so it's like the beginning of Salty Grins, or what it's about?
What it's going to be all about.
Yeah, cool. So Salty Grins, it's going to be in an idea, vlogging content and podcasting. It's just about sharing stories. There's going to be outdoor stuff because that's what I love doing. That's kind of a big part of my story, being outdoors and just enjoying all those beautiful things that we have on offer in the outdoors in New Zealand and particularly, and got some cool things coming up around the world, so get to capture that. And then the podcast is kind of sharing other people's stories. It's kind of what it is. Yeah.
How'd you come about the idea?
Yeah, so that's really
that's a big question.
I actually love this question because I love this story because it's I suppose it's my story, which kind of sounds a bit strange, but I do love the whole into my philosophies, how it all came about. So I think for quite a while I was doing these big long runs and stuff, or hiking missions, and just Snapchatting these things which come into my head, or the beautiful things I got to see, to all my friends and obviously you, Cara, and then you actually had the idea, man, you should just make a YouTube channel, people will watch this, and I was like, no one wants to watch me just ramble on and swear and curse and like all the crack up stuff that happens, but the friends found it entertaining, and the idea did stick with me. And then if we skip forward a little bit, the idea was kind of milling in my brain, and I had wanted to create some content already about my journey, particularly through sport, because I'd seen videos of mates creating like little clips or snippets and insights into their life and challenges through sport and getting after it. I was like, man, I just love these videos. I wish there was more of them. They really get me G'd up, all motivated, And I sort of had been talking to a videographer in Aroha when I was kayaking there, and had a bit of an idea, but it kind of fell through. And I think it fell through because I didn't have a good why in myself of like, why am I actually creating this? Like, it kind of seems vain just to make a video of myself. So the idea was kind of milling there. And then I had opportunity to go to Outward Bound Anakiwa and on a selection course to be a kayaker, to be an instructor. Again, another thank you to Cara for opening that sort of world for me and suggesting that. The most beautiful time, meeting 11 other amazing, beautiful humans also on that selection course, and a really moving time. I think, I'm not sure if we got, I think us as the people on the course got so much more out of anything else, the selection stuff there and everything. But Yeah, the day one, you might be able to see it, Cara. I think did I Snapchat you the pictures? Yeah. I got a massive scar. So day one, we were just sort of finishing up for the night, and I'd just gone back to our bunkhouse to make sure the lights were off, and I was just sort of jogging down a little wooden ramp with some railings, and I was like, had my hand on the railings because like 10:15 at night, and the head of a nail had popped up because it's so hot, you know, like when it's really hot, heads of nails pop up. That stuff happens. You can't do anything about it. And anyway, a nail grabbed my hand and tore it open. Spend the night A&E, 5 stitches, and that's a cool story in itself actually, but 5 stitches, come back, doctor said, don't get it wet, don't get it dirty. So I'm like, oh man, I'm not even going to be able to finish this course. And by this moment, like my whole life was kind of geared towards Outward Bound. I feel like I'd found my place and my people. And the selection staff said, oh, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to stay here, let me do anything. And I got let to stay, finish the course. Really gave me a lot of direction in my life again. Of course, I couldn't go back paddling. I couldn't tow people, couldn't hold a paddle or anything. So I was on ACC for like a week and a half after that. And so I took the opportunity to go spend some time with some of the people I had met along the way on the Outward Bound course. One of those people is a guy called Ben, and Ben also got offered the job at Outward Bound. So again, yeah, very humbled to be offered the job at Outward Bound myself. And I'm like, man, Ben, like, how can you be considering this opportunity? Like, this is the pinnacle of like what we want to do, Outward Bound. He goes, oh, I've got this idea. And this idea is to travel the world with no commercial transport, essentially just hiking, biking, and paddling our way around the world, 2 or 3 years. And like, yes, I was all in straight away. I was like, oh man. And these guys have so much skill in the outdoors. Like, oh, I haven't got the skills, but I'll work on them. And I'll video it, and I'll be the hype guy. I'll be the energy. And so that's kind of where it is. They had this idea to document. I was like, oh, cool, I'll document it. And then, again, after that meeting with Ben, I was still touring around a little bit while I had a bit of time when my hand was healing. And I met all these beautiful people. And something sort of stuck with me. It's like, man, I didn't know these people from a bar or so, you know. And the thing which connected us all was our stories. We would share parts of ourselves. We happened to have this sort of space which was safe, and we got to be a little bit vulnerable in places. And it's the adversities that we shared which connected us. Not that we've all gone through the same adversity, but we know what it's like to be in a shit place essentially. And it's really connecting. We can relate to it, and we can empathise. And it's nice to see people come through those really challenging times, and see that there's worth in those challenging times, and we can grow so much in them. So that's kind of how it all came about. All these things kind of were in the background, and they all merged in one. And I was like, okay, I want to document my journey. I want to capture the adversities and the beautiful moments too. I want it to be real, and I want to capture the human connection and create human connection through sharing my story, because we learn through shared experience. And then that same idea with the podcast, sitting down with people so they can share their story. Yeah,
nice. And you talk a lot about values, which that stuff kind of, I guess, helps align with. Tell us a little bit more about that
values.
Side of things.
Yeah, I've actually left my book in my bag. Let's get Gina. So values, values is an exercise I've done a lot of in my life. I was really fortunate. My high school did a lot of work on like leadership things and character development, and I was lucky enough to be involved in a lot of the things they had on offer. And not realising it at the time, but a lot of these people would come into the school and be like, write down some things you identify with or who you want to be as a person, and write these words down, like, oh, I want to be integral, and I want to be courageous, or just some words, that you identify with or you want people to see you as. And I kind of forgotten that exercise until, again, Outward Bound. I was working with a guy, or not working with a guy, one of the guys on selection there, Eric Panzer. We were talking about his, sort of a few of his stories through football, and how he was using that as a pathway to achieve some of his values. And he told me this value exercise, and I was like, oh man, I really need that for some of my own guidance, because at that time I was still kind of pursuing this idea of professional sport, like, oh, I just really want to do something here, and but I sort of don't know how to form it, and I'm kind of conflicted, and I feel like when we talk about this values idea, it just gives you so much direction. And so basically the exercise is just write down some values, say for your sport or for your life, or maybe even for like your relationships with people, and put down the things which you identify with. So yeah, one of the values for Salty Grins is human connection. So again, you know, that you break that down, you can write some things of what is that for Salty Grins, and that's the sharing of stories and having positive interactions with people, and people feeling good about those interactions and getting something from it. And so if Salty Grins is in a place where it's not, where that value isn't being met, well, we're not staying true to our kaupapa, our purpose. So that's kind of the idea of values. And so Salty Grins has a list of values. I personally have like a list of values, and I break that up for like things for my personal life. And then I've got for me as a person, and then I've got that for like my intimate relationships with people. I've got that for my running, and it just gives really good clarity. So when you're in a bit of a pickle, and when you're in a bit, why am I doing this? You can retreat back to those values, and if not all of those, if not the majority of those values are being met, then it's like, okay, well, let's change a few things so they are being met, and then you feel really wholesome and fulfilled. And so Salty Grins has that too to fall back on, and I think in time it'd be cool to share those exercises more so other people can do them too. It's really easy, but just makes decision making, I feel like a lot more content, you know, I feel a lot more relaxed knowing that, yep, at this point in time, all my values are being met. And I think the other important part in there is to understand those values change over time too. They're really fluid. Life happens. We put our weight into different areas, eh?
Yeah. And I was gonna ask if you're gonna include some stuff around values and stuff in your video, so it's good to know that you'll put some of that in.
I think so. I think that's really worth it.
It's helpful for a lot of people, because a lot of people struggle with that side of things.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I've got one question that people might not be questioning, and that is, how did you come up with the name Salty Grins, and what does it mean?
Yeah, it actually means a lot, eh? Been super lucky that I have a bunch of good friends, and one in particular, Emily, who's she's doing a master's in architecture, and she's been jumping on board and slaving away working on my logos. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it does look real cool.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to hope. Oh, this could be a sticker, this could be a t-shirt, this could be a hat, this could be anything. But Salty Grins was it's mostly inspired by a quote by an author, Cara. And the quote mostly goes by, I know a cure for anything, it's salt, sweat, tears, and the ocean. So I first came across that quote years ago. Pretty famous and triathlete Ian Frodeno shared that with one of his posts. I'm like, oh man, I really connect with that, you know. And when I was started in Aroha kayaks down there, I needed like a little business name. I wanted a business name for my invoicing, because we were contracting. And Salty Grins came to mind. For those three dimensions, sweat, tears, and the ocean. I was kayaking at the time, it made sense. Always been around the ocean myself, growing up pretty coastal in Kaiwi area, Whanganui sort of region. Parents super involved in surf club in their lives as well. So the ocean is like a really important part of our identity, or like in where we grew up. And also it kind of comes down to this idea of earthing, like a bit of a concept, which is literature around, guys, around how the earth has infinite ability to donate free electrons, and that reduces inflammation. There's other host of things, so it's really good for our well-being. And then sweat, well, we know that sweating and physical activity is so good for our holistic well-being, our whole order. So that's important. And then grinning, well, we know just putting a grin on, even when we don't feel like it, has this chemical sort of reaction in our brain, makes us feel better. And the last one there, which I think is like quite poignant, is tears. Mental health is super prevalent in our society today, across the world. I read something the other day where it sort of roughly said like that we stigmatise talking about things, but we mourn things like suicide. So it's kind of conflicting. So Salty Grins wants to be part of the movement with lots of other people who are normalising the chat about how we're feeling, that it's okay to feel not good. is a lot of the times that we don't feel 100%. And then also just normalising crying. Again, pretty stigmatised, particularly in males, that crying's weakness and it's vulnerable, and all those feelings get blocked up, and often as a release in other emotions like anger, because that's one emotion which doesn't feel so vulnerable, you know. So that's Salty Grins. It's got these kind of concepts and layers behind it.
Yeah, it's cool to hear you give like a full explanation of that, because Salty Grins, it's a cool name, like it sounds good and it looks cool on the logo, and it makes sense when you know that you like, you know, surfing and things in the sea and salt and like sweating and stuff, but it's nice when people understand that there's so much more behind that than just a standard salty grin, which is really cool. And obviously you like being outdoors, you like being in nature and stuff, but one thing that always struck me in your videos that I really liked and thought was quite unique, and it was because I know none of that stuff, and it was how you like to talk a lot about, you know, the birds and the trees and stuff, and just I guess your connection to the land. And I assume you're going to be having quite a bit of that sort of talk in your videos as well, and you're quite a nature man, so tell us a little bit more around that. Have I got that right, that you'll include some of that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think like when Salty Grins first started, like I was talking to you mostly about it was going to be like gear reviews and conservation, these kind of things, and then these other things kind of happened, and it grew into something which was a little, I feel, more impactful in the community, and that was, you know, like this storytelling, human connection, and sense of community developing. So that's going to be the main purpose in Kaupapa. But yeah, sure, I want to talk about conservation and gear review. I'm a real gear head, like I love my gear. But and I think a lot of the people I'm with love their gear too, you know, probably similar positions, bugger all cash, you know, what you spend your money on, you want to know it's going to do exactly, you want to know the ins and outs of it, and it's going to last. So yeah, I'll do some gear reviews about what gear I'm using and what I love about it, what I would change about it, or, you know, its pitfalls.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to being outdoors, it comes back to this concept of hauora, so holistic well-being. Hauora being our sort of Māori name aimed for holistic well-being, and a model to help us understand that te whare tapawha. So like the four-dimensional model. Now, in that four-dimensional model, there's actually a fifth dimension, the land on which that whare, that house is on, whenua. So taha whenua is this fifth dimension. So for me, I've always been really interested in our sort of Intio Māori and learning more Te Reo Māori. And so for me, particularly guiding was this awesome opportunity to delve deeper into it. I got to learn more about the legends of how the land came to be, and how, you know, why the tui has a white feather, and like why the kiwi doesn't fly, all the stories of the people, all these little things which like give everything more meaning. It helps me fulfill that taha whenua, like being connected to the land. And yeah, it's a big important part of how I identify as a Kiwi too, like knowing our trees, our native trees, and their first names, you know, their names in Te Reo, and their stories which go along with them. And yeah, same thing with the birds, like, yeah, knowing their Te Reo name, their first name. Yeah. And the conservation is so important. I don't quite have the stats, but there was an amazing stat released the other night from an Instagram page, like New Zealand Conservation Stories. I shared it on my story actually. We've got so little native stuff left. It's so endangered or threatened. It's insane. And so if I can just do my bit to spread a little bit around how beautiful our country is, and the education is what's most important when it comes to conservation. If people can understand what's out there and how endangered or threatened it is, and the little things we can do to help protect it, that's important. You don't have to be in the bush every day and an avid lover of it to do our part to protect our way of life. Because it is, you know, that stuff goes missing and we lose our tourism, we lose all these other things in this big butterfly effect. So yeah, super important that we protect that, you know.
Yeah, cool. I think that's quite unique to be sharing that, as well as just videos about going out for a hike or something. You know, it's nice to, because a lot of people would go out and not really be that appreciative of a lot of their surroundings and the land that they're on.
Another part, like the big thing, we just got some footage the other week in Aroha Mount Cook National Park, And the big push for me was like, man, I have to see the glaciers before I leave Te Waipuanamu, the South Island. I was paddling one day at work taking a tour out. It just hit me. I was like, goodness, like, man, our glaciers they're going. Like, they're going in a fast rate. I better go see them before I leave because I'm going to be out of country soon. I'm not sure when I'll get the next chance. So our big mission was just to see some glaciers. And I took a little bit of footage and we had a quick yarn about them on camera. So yeah, the things like that I just want to show people and have a quick yarn and just be one of the many people out there trying to spread the awareness.
Yeah. So I guess if we sum up essentially what Salty Grins is going to be all about, there's quite a lot to it. There's a lot with the meaning behind it. Essentially, it's a lot of video type content of you going out into nature and discussing things like that, and then also speaking with people to just learn more about individual stories or what you term like self-acclaimed ordinary people. So there's like the people side of it as well as you going out into nature and stuff. And you said you have already got some videos taken, so I assume most of it's going to be on YouTube. But what would be your main platforms of social media that people should try to stay tuned into initially?
Yeah, just quickly, I think like I'm still crafting the video editing and learning this craft, so I think as Salty Grins goes, the content will get like better, and I'll be able to hone in on those different points better. But how to follow along, so my main thing is Instagram. I understand Instagram a bit better than the other social medias. Like, I'm not on TikTok yet. I don't really use Facebook. I never understood Twitter. And I'm new to YouTube. I've never really been a big user of YouTube, just like the odd videos every now and then for reviews and stuff. So Instagram's the main portal. There's going to be really regular content on there. That links into Facebook really well, so anything on Instagram is going to go to Facebook. Going to really try craft and hone in on the Instagram properly and just do that well before going to the other social medias. And Facebook and Instagram are going to be basically links to YouTube. So I'm going to have lots of small content and pictures and things on Instagram, Facebook, and those are going to like link you into the longer videos that you can watch on YouTube.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
nice. My screen's gone blank. The new laptop, I can't remember where the on button is. That's right, I pretty much remember all the questions anyway. So obviously you've just launched. What are your next steps?
Our next steps. So got the launch out now, where I've got some videography, or I've got some content to cut into some videos. I've got lots of backlog of stuff to do. Videography and like video editing is super new to me. It's a craft which is very, very foreign. My entire life I've actively avoided technology. I'm like, too hard basket, I've got a friend who can do that for me. And so now I'm delving into the deep end of understanding shortcuts and stuff. So I'm gonna need a little bit of time until I get my first full video up, but I've got so much content I can do sort of small cuts and put some stuff up, and I'm pretty confident I've got stuff to get content consistent. So I've got our mission to the Glaciers and Aoraki. I've got some content from the Catlins. There's plenty. I've got some guys or some beautiful humans to interview for the podcast coming up. I've been taking some footage with a good friend, Christian Davey, who's heading to Europe to pursue triathlon. So I'm excited for that. That's kind of the next couple of things, short term, what's happening with Salty Grins. And of course, next year I mentioned this big expedition. So in April next year, we head away for 2 to 3 years, not sure how long, doing this expedition under our own power. So details of that will come because everyone's asking about the details, and that's what winter's for, guys. Hold your horses. We don't know yet. We got a lot of planning to do. Trust the process. That's kind of the gist of it. Other events coming up. I've got a bit of a surfing trip planned in the midst of things over winter sometime. Hopefully I can pull that off. And then over summer, again, kind of mostly 80% teed into doing Tour Aotearoa. So it's like Te Aroha, the walking hike of New Zealand, but biking with a cool friend. So there's lots happening. That's a bit of a timeline.
Yeah, cool. No, that's really exciting. It's going to be really cool to see all that stuff. Those were all the bulk of our questions that we had. If there's anything else you want to add it. Or maybe you just got some final words for people.
Yeah, I think otherwise, I really wanted people to know there's depth to Salty Grins. I would hate for people to think I'm just a guy hooting around taking pictures of myself because I like looking at myself and videoing myself. I want to do something good for the community, and hopefully this is my way of doing it and being my most authentic, genuine, happy self. But otherwise, yeah, I think for everyone, stay salty, grin lots, and throw shackers.
Cool. Love it, James. Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys. Alright. We're good.
Some music out.